Welcome to 2 cents Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz and I'm Rue. And we got some big news. Fight weekend coming up. We got an interesting card. You got Pitbull Rolly on the undercard. Then you got the headliner, Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora. Um, I'm expecting fireworks in both of these fights. We can talk quickly about Pitbull and Rolly. That's a fight that I'm not sure will go the distance, but I'll ask for a quick prediction. Who do you got in that fight?
Man, as much as I want to say Pitbull, I think I'm leaning towards Rolly on this one. I don't know if Pitbull have enough defensive tenacity. I think Rolly's power alone can, potentially get him to win. I'll say by stoppage, but if it goes to decision, I think Pitbull is going to definitely annihilate him. But I'm leaning towards Rolly and give a hot take. I think Rolly stops Pitbull.
Interesting. I think Rolly has been looking better in training. Everyone looks good in training, right? But I think previously in Rolly, you kind of saw some flaws in his training. But since he's been with Ismael Silas, I think he looks better. Like, he looks a little more technical, a little sharper. Punches look a little more crisp. You know what I'm saying? It could just be me because you know what they say about basketball. Everybody looks good on the layup line, right?
Yeah.
But I do think Rolly's been looking a little better. And I was thinking, all right, the size, but I think Pitbull, I'm imagining them both at their best. And I know this sounds crazy, but I think Rolly's best was in the Javante fight that he lost prior to getting knocked out. Just like, the pressure that he was applying, just how he looked. I thought that was the best he looked. And I thought it was also the best Pitbull look in fights they both lost. And when I just kind of compare those, even though it's not apples to apples, I think Pitbull's movement can frustrate Rolly. And I think if you're not going to be an easy target to hit and just stand there, I think it's going to be a hard night for Rolly. And I think Pitbull knows when to stand there and trade, a la the Gamboa fight. And I think he knows when to move, a la the Tank fight. So you know what? I'm gonna go Pitbull, and I do think we're gonna have a fire fight, but I do think Pitbull will win by decision. And I gotta admit, I'm a little bit swayed by a couple of people saying that Rolly's gun shy ever since the Javante knockout as well. But I'm gonna go Pitbull, so I'm gonna oppose your opinion. I'm gonna go Pitbull. Firefight, but I'm gonna say Pitbull by decision.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that, but the main event, I can't lie. Even though I was excited to see Keith one-time Thurman. Well wishes to Keith Thurman. I think his surgery was today, so wishing him the best there. But Sebastian Fundora coming off of a knockout loss to Brian Mendoza, right? And Tszyu coming off of a dominant win to Brian Mendoza. I think this is interesting because, as we always say, it's not a triangle theory in boxing, right? Just because you beat him don't mean you beat him. And I think Fundora, man, looks like a school kid or like a substitute teacher or something, but that dude is mean.
Yeah.
And he's coming to brawl, despite the 80-inch arm length, the being 6'6", he's not coming to fight you on the outside. That dude is coming to brawl, as Erickson Lubin found out pretty quickly, right? And Tszyu is another guy who's coming forward, going to put pressure on you. So I just think, what's this? How does the saying go? When an unmovable force meets whatever.
Yeah, I get your thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Unstoppable force
know,
meets unmovable force. Yeah.
Yo, they're gonna meet, and I think it's another firefight, man. But how do you see this one going?
This is really truly a 50-50 fight in my eyes. I think under normal circumstances, if they both had a full camp to prepare for one another, I would lean towards Tszyu. But because this is a last minute change, especially for Tszyu has to make more adjustments than Fundora has, especially when you're talking about the height advantage, the reach advantage, and then just stylistically. So if I'm being completely honest, I'm leaning towards Fundora. I think Fundora is going to win this one.
Ooh, yo, if Fundora wins this fight, he messes up the pot. He messes up the pot if he wins this fight, but I could see him winning this fight. The tough part about Fundora fighting on the inside the way he does is because of that arm length and his overall size. How he catches a lot of guys is not just in the exchanges, but when they're trying to get out as well. Where you would normally be out of range for the average person, Fundora still catches you with those long, awkward hooks, right? So I see it being a tough fight. One thing I'm nervous about is Tszyu doesn't have an active jab, so he doesn't really jab to keep you off. So I think Fundora is going to be able to get in there. But I think I'm going to go with the pressure of Tszyu and the body work. is going to slow Fundora down. Even though I know Fundora is usually in great shape, I think he's going to slow him down a little bit. And I think the pressure is eventually going to suffocate Fundora. I'm actually going to go Tszyu by late stoppage in this fight.
Ooh,
Yo, and I
okay.
have not picked against Tszyu. I don't ever, but since we've been doing this, I have not picked against Tszyu. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to start now because like my luck's been going. So I'm going to just keep going on the Tszyu train. Tszyu, we
Yeah.
got another one, but I'm going to go Tszyu late stoppage. I don't want to be specific, but I think we're more prone to see TKO here than like put him to sleep situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, he does have the capability of doing so, you know. And I'm curious to see how Tszyu's power is going to kind of translate, and if Fundora learned from his last mistakes, you know what I mean. But
Mhm.
it's just I feel bad for Tszyu because it's like to
I do
get
too.
Fundora last minute, that's tough. That is tough. If it wasn't
Yeah,
for that, I'm Tszyu all the way. But with that, I'm like, I don't know, man. So
yeah.
we'll
I
see
was
though. We're gonna see an exciting fight though.
I was in the gym and everybody's torn on this fight, right? Everybody's torn on this fight. My trainer, he thinks Tim Tszyu is gonna stop him, right? But then another trainer is like, "Yo, nah, Fundora, he got Fundora." So I'm like, "Yo, it's kind of torn," and I can see why, because Fundora's just so tough stylistically. And
Yeah.
I was saying something about Fundora, man. I mean, he's making the weight, but something about it just don't sit right with me. Him being 6'6", fighting at 154 pounds, it just don't sit right with me, man. But it is what it is, And then guys counted him out for a while. They thought he wasn't real until the Lubin fight. Then I think people really realized, nah, this is really real. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember
Yeah.
even Charlo was like, you know what? Nah, I got Lubin. Lubin's gonna make quick work of this dude. Y'all gonna see. We did not see that. That's not what we saw in that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's already a fire fight, and I thought we were already gonna be entertained by it. But as if the fight itself wasn't enough, then we got the resurgence of Errol Spence. Errol Spence says, "Hey man, I'm showing up to Vegas, and I want the winner of this fight." And I'm like, "Wait, hold on, wait a minute. You want the winner of this fight?" I thought Terrence Crawford had the winner of this fight through avenues of the WBO. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what's going on here? What you know what I mean? So what do you make of that Errol Spence tweet?
Oh, it's so much to unpack because first it begs the question: the negotiations between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, right? Where you had Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, they were in negotiations, and I believe Errol Spence had surgery, and Espinoza came out and said, they didn't want to hold up Terrence Crawford, so they kind of allowed him to do what he wanted to do, have him go and fight. But now Errol Spence is saying, I'll fight the winner of Tszyu Fundora, meaning that he potentially could have got into a rematch with Terrence Crawford. Not to say, of course, that would have been an exciting fight to watch, especially since we've seen how the first fight went. But it's kind of odd that he's not necessarily pressing the issue from a legal standpoint on that rematch clause, and that what Terrence Crawford is doing. And like you mentioned, the WBO did mandate, from what I read, for Terrence Crawford to be the mandatory of the winner between Tszyu and Fundora. So that's now I'm trying to figure out, does the mandatory trump what the money is going to generate between Errol Spence and Tszyu, or is it going to be Terrence Crawford and Tszyu? It's kind of weird. It's like I guess now it's just a betting war between the two sides. So
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is Tim Tszyu's manager came out and said that the Spence fight is appealing, and I think he even led to that being more appealing due to the payday. They think they can get a bigger payday there than in the Terrence Crawford fight. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, "But wait a minute, Crawford beat Spence." But I think going into that fight, I think Spence was a bigger name, a bigger draw, had done bigger numbers. Now, it will be interesting to see now because with Crawford winning that fight, did Crawford surpass Errol? Did he take the fans from Errol? And is he now the bigger name? Or is it still Errol? Because like when you think about the chatter of that fight, what are we hearing more? Is it more, man, Bud is just the truth? Or is it more, well, yo, what happened to Errol? Why did Errol look like that? I kind of feel like we're still hearing more about Errol than we're hearing about Bud. You know what I'm saying? So many
that's true.
speculations. We're hearing so much speculations. And I'm wondering, is it because you know, like I said prior to, I think people do think Errol was the bigger name, and I think based on the numbers and stuff, I think that was proven. So it's kind of a rare situation because usually, you know, it's all about the winner, but in this case, I feel like we're hearing more chatter about the loser of the match than the winner of the match. So is Errol still the bigger name? I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but it seems like Tszyu and his side thinks that, and according to his manager, they may be willing to vacate the WBO to fight Spence, which would be for that would be for a different title. I think maybe the IBF or something, or so the Spence fight would be for a title as well, and what they think is a bigger payday. So I think that's why they're looking at that route. But I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, people are gonna say he's ducking Bud because it's like, all right, if you're mandated, you know, why don't you fight your mandatory, right? So
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah,
it's a
I can
lot
see
to
that.
unpack. There's a lot going on. We won't really know what's true until we start hearing things. But I have another speculation. I think maybe I don't know if Errol and Terrence have spoken. I can't say, but they didn't fight. Well, first of all, what was weird was the rematch, right? Spence was like, "Yo, would love to do it at 54," and I thought after the fight, Crawford said like, "Yo, we could do it at 54." You know what I'm saying? So I thought we was going to get the
Yeah,
rematch at 54. Then there was some hesitancy. Then it sounded like Crawford wanted to stay at 47. But obviously Crawford was going to 54 the whole time because he was targeting, you know, Tszyu, Jermell
right.
Charlo. So I wonder if, and this is my speculation, maybe for Crawford to have an Errol Spence rematch now, since I think the rematch was breached because Errol had to get the surgery and the timeline wasn't met. Maybe he's like, "Yo, I'll still oblige the rematch, but you got to prove to me why it needs to be a rematch." So maybe Spence has to go out, get a belt,
Collect the belts again.
maybe not get all of them, but maybe he has to get a belt and look impressive. Because right now, Crawford is the A side, right? In a rematch.
Yeah,
So it's like, yo, prove to me why I should fight you again. Because based on what we saw, it don't look like I need to spend time doing this. I
yeah.
don't think he said those words because I think that would be too disrespectful, and I don't think Spence would go for that. But maybe he's like, yo, we got to build up momentum for the fight again. Yo, beat the winner of this, get a belt. I'm gonna get a belt. You know, we gonna unify at 54 for the rematch. You know what I'm saying? That's my speculation of what may be going on here.
But the thing that's odd, and it makes sense, but it's odd because then why would Terrence Crawford go to the WBO to force that mandatory? You know what I mean? Like, why would he
Yeah,
if he knew this is gonna happen? That's the only odd. That's the weird part. Maybe it's just
yeah, that's
cross
true.
lines of communication,
That
but
that that
it's a
that
good
that,
theory
that,
though.
that is true. You know, and all the belts are out there. Remember we was talking about Jamel got stripped, so all the belts are
Yeah,
out there now. So this is interesting.
yeah,
I don't know. You know, it's a tough one. I want the answers, but I guess we got to wait till
yeah.
after Saturday night to see what happened. But obviously, keep in mind, Tim Zoo's PBC, Errol Spence's PBC, in house is always going to trump outsiders.
That that's actually a great point. I didn't even think about that. Always forget Tim Zoo's with PBC, and you're right. Their loyalty lies with Errol Spence, especially. You're right,
Yeah,
right.
a lot of other promotional companies dislike Al Heyman, but I've never heard Al Heyman's fighters really talk bad about him. Maybe once I heard Broner said something, but I've never heard any of Al Heyman's people outside of that say anything bad about Al Heyman. So I could see Al Heyman saying, "Hey, Tim Zoo, this is what we need to do," and I could see it going that way.
Yeah. No, you're
Yeah,
right. That's a great
yeah.
point.
But I know that was a lot to unpack there. So quick recap. Make sure you give us those fight night predictions for Saturday night, and then tell us who you think is going to actually get the winner of the main event. Is it going to be Spence? Is it going to be Crawford? Are we going to get the Spence Crawford rematch? Jump in the comment section, like, comment, subscribe. 2 cents short of $1.